What up, guys? Total Control 871. And hopefully, by the end of this episode, I will not have forgotten yet again to tell you guys the Sister Irma telephone story. There's more to it, and every single time I spoke about the cell phone epiphany and the economy, I keep forgetting to tell probably what is the most important part of the Irma telephone story, and it might be a Freudian slip because it is very much indeed in the nature of a confession, a very painful confession, and hopefully I will remember to get that in. Alright, I'm going to see if I can move swiftly tonight. I got some topics in my head. Hopefully I'll remember them all. I want to talk about, what was it, yesterday or day before yesterday? Out of the clear blue, my sister calls me. It kind of snuck up on me. Phone rings, and I see that it's my Aunt Betty. And anytime any of my relatives call from Florida, I'm immediately gripped with fear that something has happened to my sister. And so, of course, I immediately answer, and turns out, thank God, nothing has happened to my sister, and that it is my sister herself. You know, big, bright, sunshiny hello and everything. And I had been hoping that my sister had been distancing herself from me. I had indeed deliberately not been telephoning her. I am indeed still very much preparing myself, and I'm trying to prepare her. You know, I haven't really told her anything directly yet. I've hinted around to it as much as I possibly can about continuing on in life without me. She's a very gentle soul, and I honestly cannot stomach thinking about hurting her. But equally, on the other hand, I cannot stomach another unlawful incarceration and sexual assault. I do choose death. I really don't know any other way to say that. So, let's see, there was something about my sister that I wanted to segue into. Yeah, my family had called me, and so I chit-chatted briefly with my sister. My sister hands off the phone to Aunt Betty, and you know, like immediately, as soon as she starts talking, I'm immediately reminded as to why I am so estranged from my family. I'm trying to, how can I describe my family to you? There is a skit on SNL, Saturday Night Live, called The Dysfunctional Family, as they're sitting at the dinner table. Think of it like that, but only as a template. Give it a Tyler Perry, urban black twist. In other words, they'll begin to fight like an SNL skit over the most silliest, ridiculous thing. I'll have one aunt say to another aunt, "Oh, such and such," meaning a third relative, "said that they saw you here at Walmart." They said, "What? Who was talking about me? What? Oh no, they didn't see me. They got it wrong. Who?" And then next thing you know, phones are being picked up and arguments are started. So somebody had it wrong. You know, you would literally have thought that they had been accused of being seen at the scene of a murder or a bank robbery or something crazy. Like I say, I guess you could say, from an estranged point of view, there is something of a comical element there. Anyway, but yeah, speaking with, you know, it's like you immediately can hear the defensive tone in her voice. Hello, yes, well, all right, okay, you know, just immediately defensive, at the guard, terrified, because I was the one that asked, you know, can you please put put Aunt Betty on the phone, and I'll chit-chat with her for a little bit. You know, she's at the guard. She's ready. Is he going to ask me for money? Is he going to ask me for anything at all? Well, what's going to happen? You know, kind of like that. And of course, were I to have done anything remotely like that, you will immediately be shut down. You will then become the subject. This is where it kind of gets really kind of bizarre. So the very same family members that she herself would have argued with tenaciously, it now becomes a situation of commiseration. I then become the, shall we say, common enemy. They will pick up the phone. You'll never guess what just happened. Yeah, guess what Charlie Dunbar boy done called me, asking me for? He called me, asked me for some money. He must be out his mind. And then it goes on like that. From an estranged point of view, there is a comical element to it. And, you know, they will commiserate. They will, you know, there'll be a maelstrom of hate and enmity targeted at me. You know, who does this person think they are? And then I become the subject of gossip and, you know, whatever. Anyway, there's a whole lot more I could tell about my family, but moving on here. Let's see. So, yeah, you know, I chit-chat with my family, and that was that. So, what else shall we speak about today? I guess from there I will get into my my Irma telephone story before I forget again. Boy, I tell you. As I stated before, I was the first person in all of New Jersey with a prepaid cell phone, to the best of my knowledge. And I was telling you before how there was a very much indeed a need for this, because I have always been a hard-working person. When I came from Detroit down here, I stayed with one relative first, and that's a whole story in and of itself, but I ended up renting a room with Irma, like I told you guys, and she would go to work, and what I forgot to tell you was that when she would go to work and keep her phone locked up in her room, let's see, you know, it's a clasp, a latch clasp. You bolt it to the inside of the door, and you bolt it to the door jamb. When the door is shut, you know, the pieces, you know, they latch, and you put a padlock like that. Irma put it on herself, and she did it wrong. She bolted the part that's supposed to go on the inside of the door on the outside of the door. So what it meant was that all I needed was a screwdriver to unscrew it, open it, and then go into her room and get the phone. And that's what I would do. I would start my, you know, my dialing for a job basically early in the morning. I ended up having to learn the hard way one time, because you never know when you will get a hit. I don't know if anybody dials for jobs anymore, but if you do, I always did mine very early in the morning, because that's a hard, people don't like to wake up, they don't like to go to work, they may have even been hungover, partied a little too late. You get a lot of call-outs then. And when you get those call-outs, and here I am dialing for jobs at 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, it's fresh in the manager's mind, the anger over their employee having called out. So, and yet here I have a person in the morning who's awake to call me, asking me, do I have an opening? You know what? Yeah, I do have an opening, because somebody's about to get fired. So I would dial for jobs, and I learned to take your shower first. Take your shower and be ready to roll, because you never know when you're going to get a hit. When the manager is going to say, you know what, yeah, there is an opening. How soon can you be here? Meaning right then. Now, this was in Atlantic City, and Atlantic City, the center city. It's all very. Atlantic City is only like a couple of miles wide, and just about everything in it is within walking distance. But quite often, these managers will be from offshore jobs, because I've worked so many jobs in this area. Like I said, I've had about 55 of them. And if there was an offshore job and I got a job hit, then all of a sudden, can you be here in a couple of hours? And of course, I was on welfare. From what I understand, it's still the same cash payment of $140 per month. And that would go very, very fast. And I think you got like maybe 100 or something, in food stamps. And anyway, that was back when food stamps were paper and you peeled them out of a book like a check. And if you were all out of stamps because you could go somewhere, sometimes if I had some stamps left over, I would go buy some 50-cent junk food and whatnot and get the change. And it was $1.40 to go offshore. So I could, from the change of the food stamps, I had traveling money to go offshore to go get this job. And then just simply do it in reverse, come back, buy some junk to come back. Unfortunately, there were times when I didn't even have food stamps to get the change from. And I get a job hit, somebody's telling me, can you come right away? This is the confession part. Like I said, Irma worked in the casinos. She did EVS, Environmental Services. A lot of EVS people were constantly finding change. You constantly find change, like almost every day. Back then, that's when you still dropped coins into slot machines and things of the sort like that. And so she, like a lot of casino workers, they had big change jars. Yes, I feel bad. I raided her change jar. Bus fare. If it had been at the end of the month too, where I had like no food stamp, no nothing, and it may have even been a couple of days since I had eaten. You don't want to get there and be kind of a gaga in the head. So I might even take like back then you could get your giant slice of pepperoni pizza from Chelsea's for just a couple of bucks, and just throw something down the old hatch and head offshore, and Chelsea Pizzeria, and get that job, man. I feel bad about having done that, but yes, that's basically the finishing tale to the prepaid cell phone. Why I had to get a phone. I needed communication. I needed people to be able to call me. I needed to be able to call other people. And like I said, it wasn't a friend gossiping kind of thing. Quick side note, I have never had a circle of friends in my life. So much more I could say about that, but for whatever reason, the handful of people that would be friends in my life, they don't hate each other. They just simply don't really, they're not people that would hang out with, each other. Anyway, alright, so that's basically the Irma phone confession. Oh, wait, oh my god, I almost forgot again. I guess you'd call this the comical part, that was the gut-wrenching part, was admitting how I raided her change jar. Looking back, it was comical. So there I was, I did my little trick, unscrewed the latch on her door, got the phone out, dialing for jobs. That particular day I didn't get any hits, and I knew what time she came home from work, and I normally would, pack the phone away and leave it just like she had it, like an hour or two before she got off work. This day she came home early. Busted. Cold busted. I came up with this whopper of a lie. talking about how people were trying to break into the house. Hey, I was young, okay? I was like 19 years old, all right? This huge whopper of a lie. She saw right through it. In the end, I guess you could say the transgression ended up fostering trust between the two of us because, like I said, when I moved in there renting the room, she really didn't know me from Adam. As far as she knew, I could have been a drug addict, alcoholic, and once she learned that, she figured out that I had been there for months and months, you know, and she probably realized that I had been unscrewing her door latch for months and months, you know, to get a job. And to her knowledge, I didn't steal anything. Because like I said, I wasn't like taking whole, you know, huge handfuls of change. I just took just enough for bus fare, you know, maybe a little something to eat, and that was it, you know. She had like huge jars of change. Not that that made it right how much she had. I understand that. I'm not making excuses for myself. So, in other words, the way the story ended was that she started leaving the phone out for me. She felt that I know, how weird is that? I violated, and she ended up trusting me. And anyway, all right. Moving on. In our Uber autonomous car versus pedestrian cyclist collision, it was indeed determined that this woman was just simply jaywalking across the boulevard. And what I found interesting about that was that I had a conversation, probably my first initial contact with Officer Devlin from Egg Harbor Township Police on his motorcycle. You might be able to find the video a couple of years ago on my channel and whatnot. In that, Officer Devlin goes on to recount to me a traffic, I believe it was a fatality that he responded to involving a very similar situation. It was a cyclist. However, I don't think what he was describing to me, they hadn't dismounted. I think they had just simply, what do you call it, J-riding across a multi-lane highway, that Route 40, I believe he said it was. So like what, four lanes of traffic plus a middle divider. So J-riding across it, and of course ended up getting hit. And that was his excuse for why he felt that I should not be utilizing lane control. And I was trying to explain to him then that what he just described to me is not lane control. Because that cyclist in that incident and both in the Uber incident, they behaved in an extremely unpredictable fashion. I have been saying this forever. It is not the speed of a vehicle that will keep you safe. It is the vehicle's predictability. I do agree that cyclists have to be able to utilize their hand signals. In other words, all the things that are spoken about in New Jersey's anyway, Title 39, 414, all these rules and regulations, they have been largely ignored en masse by a great many police departments the nation over, okay? And like I said before, a number of videos ago, it's been ignored as a type of weird, unofficial, unspoken trade-off. I won't hold you accountable on your bicycle, on your toy, you know. I'm not going to even recognize it as a vehicle or that you have rights to the road, and the trade-off is going to be you have to surrender those rights, and you have to be willing to scamper along the gutter like a mouse out of the way of traffic, when in fact, well, cyclists are traffic. We're not in the way of traffic, we are traffic. So, but of course, this has been the big trade-off. Anyway, so, yes, I figured that it was something that the person did, that the cyclist did, that was wrong. If you're utilizing your hand signals, also where I wanted to go with that whole thing is that many of the auto drive companies are under pressure to to recognize cyclists. And it's not just simply recognizing cyclists. Cyclists are going to, and this is going to become a big issue, mark my words, it's going to become a huge, huge issue between the cycling community and the motoring community, because as these cars, autonomy is coming, the auto drive is coming en masse, okay? And as these vehicles are taken to the road, it is a computer, and it is a computer program, okay? If you don't communicate to that computer will not understand what you're doing. So you just can't be swerving and whatnot. So you have to be predictable. There's the bad kind of cyclists, okay, have gotten very accustomed to humans behind the wheel and being able to adapt quickly enough. How quickly these computers are going to be able to adapt to your highly unpredictable cycling remains to be seen. So yes, it's the cycling community is going to have to suddenly dust off, because like you hear me talk about pulling Title 39 414 off the shelf, dusting it off, a lot of cyclists are going to have to do this. And so there's a lot of responsibility pending very soon on both motorists and cyclists. Okay, moving on to our March for Our Lives. March for Our Lives. Oh boy, this is, I truly do believe this is going to be something different. David Hogg, I understand what he's doing. He's doing much more than just simply standing at a podium emoting a great deal of anger and rage. There is strategy to what he's doing. Not only is he going after money, you know, be it NRA and politicians and things like that, but what he's doing is probably even more effective, is that he is galvanizing his constituents, people his age, and he is already laying the groundwork, programming and conditioning them into a life devoid of the Second Amendment. Even though he isn't saying that. I understand what he's saying and what he's not saying, but this is what's happening, okay? So just as today's children, I think when I was on my way to the gym, going past whatever that dealership is, I forget the name of it, but I couldn't help but notice, wow, they had a lot of electric car charge ports along the outside of this dealership. You're going to see, just like you're going to see more electric vehicles, whether they're self-drive or not. Point is, in the not too distant future, we're talking like 20 years, internal combustion engines are going to be very, very far less sparse. And with that, the same thing is true with the guns. David Hogg is conditioning the young and galvanizing the young into a future that you don't need these guns. There's a whole lot I could say about the guns themselves. I think I have said something about the guns themselves. But this is what I don't think David Hogg understands, because he is so young. It could have extremely dire and critical repercussions when you systematically dismantle the Second Amendment, because that's kind of where I was going with that whole thing about electric cars. He is telling these politicians today that his constituents are only a couple of years away from voting age, okay? And he is directly threatening politicians' jobs, you know, of voting them out of office. A bunch of young children voting a lot of old stuffed shirts and a lot of old money out of office. So for that reason, I believe some serious change is coming down the pike. The fallout from this change, it could be very dangerous. You're talking about dismantling an aspect of the United States Constitution. Now, I understand, how was it, I understand it's all being done for good purposes, and of course, what's the old saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Barack Obama I believe he tweeted something, if I'm not mistaken, and in my opinion, it was an extremely dangerous choice of words. He said something to the effect he was tweeting it at the movement, not necessarily David Hogg personally, saying that the youth can reshape and remake the world the way it was supposed to have been. The way the words read, the way it was very, very cult leader-ish. You know, it was very, very Jim Jones-ish, you know. We want to reshape this world. This is the way it should have been. It's extremely dangerous when you start monkeying around with the Constitution like that. Reason is because once you break that seal, once you make it a part of life, that if something currently isn't the way, how can I say this? Because although, you know, things do change in law, I understand that. The slippery slope. How much longer is it until something else is found undesirable in life that our Constitution protects us against? No big deal. Just simply change. I could say so much more about this. It's kind of what David Hogg is doing now is the precursor. It is the proto-psychology to what initiated on that planet in A Wrinkle in Time. Okay, how everything became so controlled, you know, and if you are out of step, then you will be conditioned. Remember, all of this is being done, all of it had been done for good purposes. I really don't know how else I can really explain that to you. But yeah, we have extremely young people poised to make very, very dangerous changes. Changes that, quite frankly, I don't think they do understand the implications of. You know, we got, you know, there's an array of them that seem to be the leaders. We got the you know, she's got the whole 1960s denim on, and the shaved head, and the, you know, a lot of danger could come of this. So there you go, guys. Yeah. What can I tell you? All right. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. I don't know what to tell you about this Constitution. It does. It has me worried. I'm not even a gun enthusiast. I am not. Let me see. What did I say? Yeah, I think there was a story about that I had for you guys about. I guess I'll throw it in real fast. Had a buddy, co-worker. What happened to him was that he his account got ripped off $800. And what happened was he had a credit union. He didn't have a bank account. It was a credit union. I don't really know a whole heck of a lot about how credit unions function. Point is, he just kind of ate it, you know. I think he might have tried to file a claim, but all I know is that he ended up eating it. From what I recall, can remember, he really just didn't follow through. He was the kind of non-confrontational, didn't want to call the cops, didn't want to do any of that, and he just ended up eating it. It was absolutely horrible. Soon after is when he told me or shared with me that he applied for his gun permit. He acquired guns soon after. Now, I don't know if that was the impetus behind him wanting a firearm. I really don't. All I know is that he didn't exactly, talk about it prior. We did a whole bunch of, movies and stuff and comics and whatnot. That filled our conversation. But then all of a sudden, shortly after him, being ripped off, cyber, and that's what made it so weird, because it's like, if you were a victim of cyber crime, your credit union stole, somebody stole $800 from you out of your account, a gun isn't going to help you get that back, and a gun isn't going to stop it from happening again. So there's so much I could say about the psychology. Does it make you feel bigger? Did what happened to you make you feel emasculated? Does the gun help compensate for that? Just so much more I could say about that. So again, I know guns do not kill. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. But guns definitely have a hypno-seductive effect on people that I have no intention of glossing over. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know how to view David Hogg. He could very well indeed be the next man with the red eyes, a wrinkle in time, Alright guys, that's it. Total Control, 871.